Moving on to wholesale energy prices, the future of UK gas prices. We're likely to become increasingly dependent on supplies of gas by LNG as the contribution from North Sea declines. Won't this make the UK increasingly exposed to prices in Asian markets?
One of our concerns, long-term concerns, is to make sure that we have a diverse energy supply, that we're not over-dependent on a particular energy source. And in this case, for our gas, that's going to be a very important part of our energy mix, that we're not dependent on one particular source. But we do actually have a very liquid gas market in the UK, probably the most liquid in Europe, if not the world. We have, yes, gas supplies still from the North Sea, and we're doing an awful lot to enhance those supplies because they have been declining. We want to halt that decline if we can. But we also have pipelines from Norway and from the continent,
sure, yeah, but
as well as LNG. So we've got the point I'm trying to make, Dr. Lee, is that we've got a variety of supplies, and that's the right thing. But I don't disagree with your point that we shouldn't be over-reliant on one form of energy because it exposes our economy.
Yeah, I mean, that's all very well, but the problem is that the Asian economies need the energy at a time of winter, and their winter's the same as us. I mean, so their seasons are the same. So the likelihood is we're going to need it as much as when they need it much. And if you add into the mix the rather bizarre decision by the German government over nuclear and Fukushima in Japan, the likelihood is that we are going to be dealing with higher prices from, the tankers coming out of the Straits of Hormuz. It's going to turn left, isn't it? It's not turning right.
Well, if you look at the recent flows, you're right to say that Japan has seen some very high hikes in the gas price it's been prepared to pay, and that has attracted quite a lot of the LNG that's been around. But that doesn't mean there haven't been tankers from Qatar and other places that have come to the UK. But you're right, LNG is one part of the gas market which is much more global by the very nature that it's on ships. But my point to you back is that we're not dependent on LNG. We have other forms of gas from the North Sea.
Yeah, but you said earlier that gas is going to play a major part, and we're going to need significant amounts of gas. I mean, I'm sort of fingers crossed North Sea they can recover further assets, fracking delivers, whatever. But reality is that we're going to be increasingly dependent on gas as coal switches off. That's true. And in view of the fact that our gas we get from Europe, I mean, the Norwegians, they're going to start, if the Germans start paying more for it because they're having to import more because they've switched off their nuclear power stations, I mean, the chances are we've got high gas prices ahead of us, aren't we?
Well, you're right to say that if you look at some of the forecasts by the International Energy Agency, some of the market analysts, they do say that gas prices are likely to stay high and potentially go higher. One of the problems, of course, in sort of working out where the future of the gas prices will be is understanding the underlying demand and supply in the sort of three regional markets that we have in the world: the North American market, the Asian market, and the sort of European North African market. And that has been complicated by things in Germany and Japan, the nuclear switch-off that you've referred to. It's also been complicated because we don't know how much unconventional gas we're going to get from fracking, particularly in Europe and North Africa. I hope that will be successful, but again, it's one of these sort of uncertainties.
Sure. I mean, and also it would be further complicated by increased renewables, because cold, windless days, you have to underwrite every wind farm with gas. But moving on to sort of the winter gas storage problem that we also have, we have pretty limited facilities. What plans do you have to develop seasonal gas storage capacity?
Well, we are seeing a number of new gas storage facilities being built, but one of the
whereabouts exactly?
I don't know if my colleagues they're not the experts in this area. We could give you the exact details. Some of these are fast cycle gas storage plants, which are quite interesting because they're different from some of the storage plants we've had previously in the country, which have been more long-term storage, and it's actually quite helpful because it can deliver the gas more quickly. There are a number that we have underway, but one of the misunderstandings that we've seen, not least in the recent headlines a few months ago, we had the real cold period, was that people seem to think that we depended on the gas from these storage facilities. Actually, because we have a diversified supply of gas, we take gas on any one day from a number of different sources, including the pipelines we have in Norway and the continent, including LNG, including the North Sea. So sometimes people think that the storage is a critical part of the supply of gas to the UK on any one day. That's actually not the case. It's a part of the mix, but not the critical part.
But of course, having that capacity would allow us some buffer against a closure of Straits of Hormuz event, for example, would it not? Which isn't beyond the realms of possibilities, really, is it, at the moment, isn't it?
Well, I think if the Straits of Hormuz closed, you might be more worried about our imports and the world's imports of oil. Rather more than gas, I would suggest to you.
Well, I know, but the problem is that a lot of our long-term contracts with the Russians are fixed to oil barrel prices, so it does have an impact.
Well, the UK doesn't have very many long-term contracts with Russia, as you know.
Yes, but if those countries have those supplies, they're going to look elsewhere for the supplies and thereby drive up the gas prices coming from elsewhere, which we use from our diversified base. So the American shale gas, the Norwegian gas, all those prices will be lifted up by the fact that the gas price from Russia has gone up because of the barrel price has gone up.
Well, if Dr. Lee, you're interested in the...
Do you accept that?
Well, to answer your question.
Yeah.
We do a lot of work thinking about energy security, where we look with colleagues across government about what if the Straits of Hormuz closes, what if a pipeline, some maintenance problem or strike so that the pipeline isn't getting gas to the UK. And we look at scenarios where we take 2 or 3 things happening and say, well, would we be secure for gas supplies if this and this all happened suddenly on the same day?
Yes.
So we do that type of analysis because you would expect us to do that. I'm very happy to obviously maybe some security issues, I'm not sure how that would play, but I'm very happy to share with the committee some of that work that's
so you don't have sleepless nights about it? Is that what you're saying?
No, I don't actually. I think we do a lot of preparatory work, and if anything, we've stepped that up.
Okay, moving on to the sort of comparing gas and electricity prices within the European Union. Your written evidence states that UK consumers are paying the lowest gas amongst the lowest electricity prices in the EU15 when tax is included. However, when tax is excluded, UK consumers pay a significantly above average electricity price and slightly above average gas price. Why don't you use tax-exclusive figures to give a fair representation of UK energy prices compared to Europe's?
We use the ones with tax because that's what people pay.
Yes, but when you're talking about... but hang on a minute. When you're talking about wholesale energy prices, that is net. It's irrespective of tax. The price is not set on the markets based upon what the VAT level is in various countries. We choose to add that on top of that. In this context, we are trying to work out whether we're paying significant sums of money wholesale, separate from tax. So, I'm not on about how much it costs Mrs. Bloggs down the road because she's paying VAT. I'm on about how much you're paying Vladimir Putin for your gas, and that is the subject of VAT.
Well, if you're saying that there may be more room for increased competition to make sure...
candor, not competition, candor.
Sorry?
Candor. As in, let's be transparent, let's compare like with like, is my point.
You were able to deduce from our figures that we'd presented after tax figures, so we were pretty transparent on that. We always have been. And I think one of the reasons we've done that is because that's what people pay. And I think that's quite understandable. People want what they're actually paying. But if you're understandably, and I don't disagree with your line of question, Dr. Lee, and it's a fair question to say, and are we pre-tax are we getting the best prices? Well, we're getting, as you said, around average, a little bit of it in electricity, and that suggests that there is room for more competition. And one of the obsessions I have in policy, in both retail and wholesale markets, is to make sure we have as competitive markets as possible.
Building on that, I mean, we've not seen any new companies of significant size entering the energy supply market. What do you see as the main barriers to entry to provide the competition that you seek?
And you're talking about suppliers to retail customers now. Mm-hmm. We've actually seen quite a lot of smaller companies. They haven't yet got big market share, but I think the recent trends are in the opposite direction to what you described, Dr. Lee. I mean, one of the reasons I'm very keen on collective switching, which I've regaled the committee about before, this idea of bringing consumers together so they can purchase together, increase their buying power, is not only does it get better deals for those customers who see the deal that's actually good for them after joining a collective switch. Not everyone will, but many do. But the auction of a large number of accounts actually promotes competition, so it has an indirect effect for all customers, because it enables smaller suppliers to be able to gain access to a larger number of accounts at relatively low cost. Winning new accounts in the energy business can be quite expensive process, from knocking on doors, from mailing and so on. But the auction process, which collective switching, which I've been really pushing, as you know, as Secretary of State, actually opens up on one go large numbers of accounts, and we've seen as a result of that some of the smaller suppliers increasing their customer base. So I think the trend on that side, I'm not saying we're there yet, but we are seeing more competition on this.
Okay, and finally, a question on liquidity. Contracts for difference proposals under the Energy Bill will require a liquid market in electricity contracts, and yet Ofgem has been striving to improve liquidity since 2009 with limited success. Does your department have any alternative arrangements if liquidity does not develop?
Well, it's something we've been doing a lot of work on, but Ofgem equally have been doing a huge amount of work on, and they've learned from the period which you described, where they've done analysis for a number of years. But as I said in my remarks, I think it was to Mr. Robertson, the latest consultation had some very strong proposals, and I understand that GEMA are looking at them to make final decisions following that consultation next month, and we look forward to their conclusions. We've made it clear that we want to see much greater liquidity in the forward markets. That's good for competition, it's good for transparency. I think it will help independent generators not just get contracts for difference under electricity market reform, but anyway enable them to manage their risk better. It'll be one factor in helping them get power purchase agreements so they can grow and compete with the bigger companies. So I couldn't have been clearer over a protracted period that's the direction of travel that I support. And just in case anyone was in any doubt, we got into the Energy Bill reserve powers so that if Ofgem's proposals don't work, we would still have the powers to come and revisit the wholesale markets to get liquidity. I don't think we could have been clearer supporting the independent energy regulator and giving a clear steer that we want to see more competition in the wholesale markets.
Robert.